Okay, before we jump into what is Azure and what is all other components of our syllabus, let me first talk about data engineering. Okay. What is data engineering? Data engineering in simple terms and straightforward, easy to understand without going into much technicality, to make the data available in a business required form, or data where the data you make the data in such a way that any person, if he can or she can go through that data, can easily get the meaning of out of that data. Okay, in simple terms, that is what data engineering is. Okay, now there are various technical definitions available all across the internet and all across multiple books, which can be like bringing data from various sources through various ETL tools and then putting into one storage or different storage, then performing lot of transformations, cleaning, and deriving the insights out of that data. All those kinds of definitions are there. But in simple terms, data engineering is nothing but making the data available for the user, for the business in such a way that whatever they need is as simple as that for a data engineering. Okay, now uh, initially or nowadays also data engineering is in simple terms is basically ETL. Okay, which is extract, transform, and load. Okay, that is extracting data, that is getting data from various sources. Let me give you an example before again I tell you what is extract, transform, and load. Okay, whatever devices currently nowadays we are using, okay, whether in terms of mobile, in terms of online shopping, whatever we are doing, or in terms of sensors data, or like sensors we have installed into industry, home, etc., all these things generate data. Okay, whenever temperature rises or reduces, sensor hits or low, like start something or power off something, that's basically it's generating data. It's checking the temperature day on and day off. Our mobile device or internet, lot of data is being generated, correct? So whenever this data is generated, where does this data go? Okay, it is being stored into various storage. Okay, for example, a basic example, our mobile, we have a storage in that 128 GB, 256 GB, whatever it is, or earlier they used to have the SD cards also along with internal storage. So whatever photo, video, contact we capture either gets stored into the internal storage or SD card storage. Okay, and then your SIM card also has inbuilt memory where we can store the contacts as well. Okay, so that is the storage. So now the rest of the data which is generated on industrial level. Okay, all the companies that basically every company involves with data and they store the data then, so their data volume is comparatively higher than what our mobile data is generated. Okay, consider an example of Facebook or Twitter or YouTube. Millions of users are using it simultaneously. So let's say one user generates only 1 MB of data per minute or per hour, and it generates 1 million MB of data within per minute or per hour. So then all this data is stored again various storages. Okay, now when this data is being stored, okay, it can be either then of three form, generally as categorized technically: structured, comma, semi structured, and unstructured. Okay, we categorize the data which is being generated and stored into these three formats: structured, semi-structured, and unstructured. Structured is basically where I can put that data into definite structure, generally row and column. State for example Excel. Okay, Excel sheet is a perfect example of a structured data where we have rows and columns. Okay, that is a structured data. Semi-structured data is basically where there is a definite structure, but then that structure can vary. Okay, to give you an example, mm, yeah, so in our attendance book there is a roll number and then there is a name. Okay, the name field can vary based on first name, last name. The length can vary. The first name, sorry, the roll number can change across them, and then there is associated class with that. Okay, you can put the semi-structured data after some conversions into structured data, as well as structured data into semi-structured data. Okay, now unstructured data. So unstructured data doesn't follow any specific structure. Okay, for example, if you see the Facebook or Twitter or YouTube's data, okay, it can have audio file, it can have video file. Then the users are commenting, then it is a text. And when users are commenting that, they are not restricted to just only type the specific word. You can type anything, you can apply special character, you can put emojis, you can put images or GIF, all those things, right? So that there is no definite structure to that. So that is semi-structured data. Okay. Now, when this data is stored basically from the system which is being generated, let's take an example from our mobile. Okay, just with a simple term, mobile or any POS system. Okay, when data is generated, it is being directly stored into a system. Let's say that is called, we are calling it a storage. Okay, let's not go into very technical detail right now, like what is database and all those things. Okay, it's get done stored. Okay, data generated by system which immediately being stored into a storage, that system is generally called as OLTP, online transaction processing system. Okay. Why it is called as OLTP, or what is meant by OLTP is because data generated from, just a second, yeah, data generated from various systems. Okay, systems, it means basically transactions are happening there, right? When you start the YouTube, you are doing something, like you are starting YouTube, you are clicking on a video, that is a transaction from user end. And then video plays, that is a transaction from YouTube's or visual, sorry, from the device end. Similarly, when you go to a shop, you purchase something, then you are, then that person, like in supermarket or something, that person enters the details into the POS system, enters the details of the product cost, and then you pay the money, and then he again mention details whether you are paying by debit card, credit card, cash, or also mentions how much pay you are paying. If you are paying by cash, then the residual, like the remaining amount, he gives you back. All these details are being entered into that POS system. Basically, whenever a transaction happens, there is an exchange of data. Okay, and then immediately that data is being stored. So the data generated through transaction is immediately being stored, and that's why we are calling it as a online transaction processing system. Why online? Imagine that mm, you are doing a transaction on your mobile or a POS system, right? You are offline. Offline means you are not connected to internet. What will happen? The data will be stored only into your internal storage, and not be uploaded to cloud or any other center repository system. Okay, any other center storage, it will not go, right? But imagine that there are a super shop or a YouTube or any example, they have multiple chains, and they, at the end of the day, business want all of their data at a single place. Okay, that's why if you see your IRCTC websites or any other website, they have a specific downtime outside the business hours. Okay, what do they do that time is they perform all the maintenance activity which a user can see in the front end, as well as in the backend. Whatever data they have been collected till the day, they send that to a central storage system, whatever the central database and servers are there, they send it there. And that's why it's called as online transaction processing system. Okay, now data is stored there. Okay, suppose I am a business user, I want to go and see my data, I want to do some analysis on top of data. I want to see, for example, in today's day, how many customers were there who came in my store, and out of that, how many customer purchased some item. Okay, I want to see that. If I go and try to see the data from this particular database, what will happen is this particular database is already live, right? It is connected to various sources. There is already load on this data, and when I go and try to fetch that information that I am trying to do, then it will put a load on this data. It will be slow. Okay, and it then impact the front end system. Okay, that's why we do not perform all this kind of analysis. We do not develop reports or any other business analysis on OLTP system. That is the convention. Okay, now here comes the ETL. Okay, because we can, but we do not, or we should not perform the all this analysis part into OLTP system. We need a different system where we at any point of time can go and do our job, like do the data analysis, derive the KPI, do transformations, write various things, combine various data, okay, clean the data, correct the data, whatever we need. That's why we need a different system, and that's why we call it as a OLAP system. Okay, this is online analytical processing system. See, in the name itself is analytical processing system. It is meant for analysis purpose, and it is this OLTP is meant for transaction purpose. Okay, so the use of this is because it is not directly connected to any of the front end system like POS or YouTube. Oh, no, what it will be doing is it this system will have all the data, okay, all the data or less than the data of this OLTP system. Okay, how will it we have then? Because OLTP is collecting data, OLAP is not connected to front end. There won't be the data of that business or transactions in this. That's why then this part come ETL. Okay, this will bridge the gap. Okay, the first part extract. Okay, we will extract the data from OLTP system. Okay, using various extraction tool or ETL tool. For example, if you heard of SSIS, if you have heard of ADF, then Matillion, all these extraction tools are there. We use those tools, we connect to OLTP system, we perform the extraction of the data, and we put that data into OLAP system. Okay, now what consists of OLAP system, what is there in OLTP system, that we'll see in later sessions. Okay, in general, we do the extraction of data from OLTP system and we put it into OLEP system. Okay, that's what the extraction is. Now transform. Okay, now once I put the data into OLEP system, okay, now this transform can happen here also, and it will happen in OLAP also. Okay, it depends on how we design our system is basically. Okay, once I put the data into OLAP system or a different database, okay, for example, I took all the data, I put it into one Excel. Now I want to find out how many total students in each of the classes. What I will do is I will apply a filter condition, or I will pivot that table, then I will group it by the class, and I will see the number of students present or the number of students available in each of the class. Correct. This is some basic transformation that I mentioned. Then I need to do the cleanup. For example, in every class there are student name like first name, last name, middle name, and each of them is available in different sheet. I don't want the middle name to be displayed to the user or whatever it is, or mobile number. Then I will remove the mobile number or encrypt the mobile number of the user, or I will combine the first name and the last name and remove the middle name from that in the final OLAP database that I'm designing. Okay, those kind of transformation I can perform while extracting the data itself if I write those, or I will perform once I put the data into LP system. Okay, this is the transformation operation. Okay, and then load. Okay, sorry, and then the load. Now, if I'm doing the transformation operation while extracting the data, then my next step will be putting the data into OLAP system, and that's where the load part comes. Okay, now if I'm doing a transformation after putting the data into OLAP system, then the naming convention slightly change, which is generally adaptable in today's data engineering field is ELT. Okay, extract, load, and transform. So in this form, what I will be doing is I will be first extracting data, putting the data into OLAP, and then transforming it. Okay, this is the general idea of ETL, and that's what generally a data engineer do. Okay, now to do those things, right, a data engineer should be aware of the tools, like data engineer should know the tools for the ETL purpose. So in our course, we'll be going through ADF, Azure Data Factory, as a ELT/ETL tool. Okay. So, okay, now I will talk about Azure. Earlier, prior to, I believe 2014 or 15, prior to 2014 or 15, all the systems were on-premises system. Okay. To give the example of what is on-premises, and the second one is cloud system. Okay. Okay. To give the example, what is when I say on-premises means is basically, okay, all of you must have been using the mobile phone, and you had the mobile phones prior to that as well. Okay. Earlier, the data of the mobile phone was only stored internally into the phone or SD card, which is available locally to the user. Okay, so the data was not going outside your mobile. Let's consider mobile as your environment. Okay, the data was not going outside your environment. Okay, and when data doesn't go outside your environment, okay, the given environment where the data is being collected or the network of the company, then it is called as on-premises system. It's completely on-premises. Okay. Now, today, for example, we only have internal storage in most of the phones. Most of the phones doesn't support SD card as well. So when we are storing data into, yeah, any question? Okay, okay. So most of the mobile phones doesn't have the SD card also. They only have internal storage. But all of these mobile phones comes with, for example, if you are using a iOS phone, it comes with the Apple storage. If you are using an Android phone, it comes with the Google Cloud storage, correct? So when you start using that Apple Cloud storage or Google Cloud storage, which is readily available and can be accessed across any of the devices unless and until you have the internet login password. Okay. But when you put your data into the OneDrive of Microsoft, or Apple Drive of Apple, or Google Drive of Google, what you are doing is you are putting your data into someone else system, someone else device, right? And that's where your data is being now going outside your system. And when you do that, it's called a cloud system, because you are not facilitating any storage for that. You are not facilitating any compute for all the storage or whatever you are putting onto Google Drive, right? You are just accessing the drive using an internet, and you're just putting it that Google is the company, or let's for example person who is maintaining that storage for you. Okay, and that's why it's called as cloud system. Okay, and then there is third type, hybrid. Okay. Okay, we'll talk about hybrid cloud later. But coming to point where we're talking about Azure. Okay, so prior to 2014-15, most of the systems were on premises only, because there was less to no concept of cloud. Okay, but Microsoft when launched cloud, there was only prior to that, I believe Drive was there. I don't remember exactly, but anyways, so Microsoft launched Azure. Okay, Azure is the name of cloud service offering provided by Microsoft. Okay, and when we say Azure Data Engineering, okay, that means we'll be doing the ETL or or the data engineering job using the Microsoft services. Okay, to be specifically, Microsoft Cloud Services. Microsoft Azure is the Microsoft's offering of cloud services. Azure Data Engineering is when we go use Microsoft's cloud services for data engineering job. It's called Azure Data Engineering. Okay. Any question till this point? Okay.
Hello. So can I ask you one
Yes.
question?
Yeah, sure.
So that this course is related to that Azure database developer, or it is related to the analytics?
Okay. See, okay. Your question is whether this course is related to Azure database developer, right? Or analytics, correct?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Uh, Fine. Before I, okay, fine. So see, Azure database developer and analytics, or you mean business analyst, right? Okay. See, so when, okay, my understanding of Azure database developer when you're asking question is basically a person who is using Azure database to develop certain things. Okay. That is what Azure database developer's role is. And when you say analytics or business analytics, it means understanding the business first and then using the data generated by that business, generating the insights which will help business to uh, to form a more precise decisions. Okay, that's what analytics or business analysts do. Okay, now in our course we'll be studying data engineering, and neither the Azure database developer nor the business analytics. Okay, I'll tell you the difference in two. Okay, here what we study is basically we need to use a database basically. Okay, which is a part of storage. So we'll be developing objects like tables, views, store procedure, functions, whatever there is. We'll be touch basing on that into data engineering, because a data engineer's job is to work on various storage systems. Okay, and one of the storage system that we'll be covering is Azure SQL database and Azure Synapse Analytics. Okay, that is what we'll be covering in the course. Then business analytics is nothing but deriving insights from the data. Okay, that is what you are doing, analysis of that data. Right now you have the data, you need to perform analysis. That means you will go through data minutely. Okay, and to derive the analysis, you need to know some of the business knowledge as well, a business or function knowledge. Then only you will be able to derive the correct analysis. But to do this part, right, you need the data into clean and correct format. Okay, and that's what a data engineer do. Once he does that, then only this step, analytics or business analysis process starts. Okay, uh, in current era or nowadays, the boundary between the data engineering job and business analytics is getting thinner and thinner. It's not like that. If I am a data engineer, I only write the script, I'll transform data and put it, and now someone else will come and then he'll start looking into the data, he'll find the issue and then he'll let me know. No, nowadays when we start into a project or a company, once we understand, like after working we understand the business of the project or the company, what we are doing is, then we only partially start correcting the data based on that. Okay, to answer your question.
Yes, yes, I got the answer to this question. And there is
Okay,
that way another thing. Will this course the content that is the basic of the basic of the Azure, how to create the resource, subscription, storage, container, queuing the
yes,
message.
yeah,
Okay, the
yeah.
Kubernetes
So
and Docker.
no, Kubernetes and Dockers are not part of this course. These are the separate courses and separate modules actually.
Okay, okay.
Yeah. So in this course we'll be having the overview of Azure, what is Azure, what are services, then creating Azure services, what is resource group, what is subscription. Okay, then the components that are required for our data engineering job. For example, creating Azure SQL database, creating data lake, creating blob storage, creating Synapse Analytics services. All this we'll be doing, like creating in the live class in the recorded session, so that you can go and see through that session. Okay, those we'll be doing. Then this is kind of a storage that I just touched base now. Okay, then as a part of ETL, we'll be covering to data factory. Like we'll be creating a data factory as a resource. We'll be connecting to these sources that we created as a part of source to onboard data. Then we'll putting that data into Azure SQL database or Synapse. Okay, that we'll be doing. Okay, then we'll be also touch basing into the storage. For example, SQL database and Synapse will be touch basing what are tables, what are views, what are procedures, what are functions, how to create the tables, how to create the views, what are distribution methods. All those things will be covering in that part. Okay, apart and
Hey Arjun, I have one question.
Yes, go ahead.
So when you say like Azure Data Factory, so does it support other ETL tools like Informatica, Ab initio, all those tools as well, or will it only support Azure Data Factory?
When you say support, you mean who is supporting? I mean,
I mean the ETL tool, right? The
Data
ETL tool,
Factory itself is a ETL tool.
Azure Data Factory is a ETL tool. Is it mandatory
Yes,
like we
yes.
have to only go with Azure Data Factory, or can we go with Informatica tools like other ETL tools like Informatica?
Okay, I think I got your question. See, uh, Informatica, data stage or SSIS, right? These are
Right.
ETL tools, correct? But I mean, yeah, of course, you can use those ETL tools, right? If your project has those like mandatory tools to use and they are not using Data Factory, you have to work on that and use it. But in this course, we are not covering Informatica or data stage or SSIS. We'll be covering Azure Data Factory because,
I got
uh,
that point. This is just a question I'm just asking.
yeah, yeah, correct. Means basically all the ETL tools support most of the sources, right? But then the only difference lies is between whether it's hosted on premises, the cost of it, and then whether it's hosted on cloud, and how much code lines of code it requires, right?
So, okay. So, what is the prerequisite for this course? If I have to continue this course, what should I have? Like prerequisite, like the database knowledge, detail, what do I need?
Yeah, I mean, uh, I wouldn't say it kind of a prerequisite, but if you have the conceptual knowledge like what is database, what is data, what is ETL, it will be helpful to understand it quickly. Even though if you do not have that prerequisite knowledge and you are very fresh and you just want to switch into this data engineering
Right.
stream or anything, as you see, I'm covering from very basic, like starting from what is ETL, what is data, how it's generated, where it is stored. So if you go through that and you like after the session, because you don't like the person who doesn't have that knowledge, like prerequisite knowledge or that information, he has to put an additional effort, that's all. But all the basic conceptual things, right, from storage to the database to how data generator stored, that I'll be covering everything.
Okay. So, after this course, we'll be, when we are applying for jobs, we'll apply for Azure Data Engineer.
Yes,
What jobs we,
correct.
okay,
That will be the actual profile as a Azure data engineer.
got it.
Hi, I have a question. So,
Yes.
in this program, regarding SQL and Python, from the basics, do we have any prerequisite to learn, or is it a part of a program that will be, taught us?
Yeah, I mean, see, SQL and Python are kind of two different languages. One is programming language and one is scripting languages. Yeah,
Right. Yeah.
we will be covering both the languages in this course from the basic, but we won't be spending much time on the basic. For example, we will be covering what is how to create table, what is DDL, what is DML, or in Python, all the keywords, what is array, what is list, everything will be covering. But we won't be like working on those with very specific examples. What we'll be doing is we'll be touch basing the concept. So we'll know what is the concept of that, what is the example, and what is the business use or use case for that. All those things we'll be covering, and then we'll be using that into the actual code.
Okay.
Okay.
How about Spark?
Yeah, so Spark will be having a dedicated session where we'll be talking about what is Spark architecture, why Spark is important, and how Spark is in business or in trend right now, and how we are going to use Spark into Databricks or ETL.
Okay, got it.
Yeah.
Hey Arjun, can you just give a quick glance about the job description?
Sorry, I can't hear you. Can you please repeat?
Can you just give a quick glance on Azure Data Systems, how it really works? What is the, the concepts behind it?
Sorry, I just heard. Can you give a quick glance of? I am not able to hear afterwards. If anyone can heard him clearly, you can just let me know what he's trying to ask.
Are you asking the course curriculum, Manoj?
No, is asking for a quick overview of Synapse.
Oh, Synapse. Okay. I mean, see, Synapse is, I can't cover it within 10-15 minutes. Okay. We have a session for Synapse when, like, going forward, well, we'll be covering Synapse in detail, what is Synapse, why it is there, and all those things. But to answer your question, I can tell you, say, what is Synapse basically. Synapse, okay. How do I tell you? Okay, fine. If all you could have worked on copying the data in a laptop, right? It is very basic thing that everyone works while like copy a folder from one place to another. Very basic thing, right? So when computer and laptop like starting to 2010, 11, when they were new, when even copying 1 GB of file would take like for 15, 20, 25 minutes, right? It was taking more time. Then there was software which came called Terracopy. Okay, I don't know whether you have heard it or not use it. So basically what Terracopy used to does is it the same file in the same computer, it used to copy very quickly. Okay, like within like same job for which earlier took 15-20 minutes, it used to take 4 or 5 minutes like that. The only difference between those two things was parallelism. Okay, only difference was parallelism. Okay, and when I say Synapse or Azure Synapse Analytics, when you compare it with your conventional database like on premises, the first difference is it is hosted into cloud, and second thing is it supports MPP. Okay, that we called as massively parallel processing. Okay, let's not go into massively and everything. Simple in simple terms, if I have given a job to the uh, count the number of books in a library, right? And I'm a single person, correct? And I started counting. It will take, let's say, for me, a 10 days. But then, if if I have given again two more resources, like two more people with me to count the number of books into library, then what I will do is I will just divide the section amongst the first people, and then one section among the second, and I will take the third section. And then at the end, what we will do is we'll do the sum of our total of our three of what we have counted, and we'll get the number of total books in the library, correct? But in this way, we will take only 2 to 3 days instead of 10 days. That's what a parallel job is. So Synapse supports parallel processing of data. It has nodes across it. Nodes means just like resources. Okay. So when we submit something, some action for Synapse to do, instead of doing it step by step, it divides the action into multiple steps. And it gives those multiple steps to various nodes or resources to do. And then the result, they give the result back to Synapse, and Synapse will combine that and then give it back to user. That's what a parallel processing is, and that's why Synapse is faster and kind of more reliable when it comes to processing large amount of data. Okay. Okay.
How long is the whole course program?
So the standard duration for the course is 40 days, I believe, but again, organizers can confirm you for the details. But yeah, what I know is standard duration is 40 days, but we can extend the course like 4 to 5 sessions based on the curriculum, the way, the speed the curriculum is going on, and the factor that we are supposed to cover. Until unless we cover all the points, we won't be going to end the course.
So will it be in the morning time or evening time, Arjun?
Currently, the convey time for me is the evening time, 9 p.m., I believe. But again, then based on the students' availability and the organizer communication, the timings can be shifted. It is flexible basically. So the more correct person to answer your question for the timings, it organizers. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Okay. I think someone asked about the course content. You can ask this to organizers. They can share you across your email. If you put your emails in the chat or send it directly to organizer, up to you, whatever convenient. They will share the course content PDF to you over the email. Okay.
Just one question, Arjun. Um,
Yeah.
can we have this Azure subscription on ourselves?
Yes, you can have. Azure provides a trial subscription for 30 days. That is the time limit, or $200 credit, like until unless you spend the $200 amount. So we are going to use those, like that trial subscription to perform our activities.
What is the prerequisite needed for that? Do we need some like credit card or something like that?
Yes, we do need an internet connection. We do need a credit card, and we do need a valid mobile number, which will be receiving an OTP. And yeah, if you have these three details along with an email ID, you can have a trial subscription. If you already availed the trial subscription using those email ID and credit card combination, then you need to use a different email ID.
Okay, okay. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, yeah,
Arjun, I have a quick question. So, does
yeah.
this course covers complete hands-on and end-to-end on Python, which is required for Azure Data Engineering?
Okay. Uh, See, Python is very vast and huge language. Okay, it's a programming language and it's very vast and huge. Uh, I would say, mm, without a diplomatic answer, I would directly say, see, this course will cover the basics of Python, which is common across all the things, right? The basics of Python, which you can use anywhere when you are working on Python. Afterwards, once we complete the basics of Python, right, then we are not going to go into data structures or like those kind of work environment. We are afterwards will be shifting towards the usage of that Python into data engineering, which ultimately in terms of PySpark. Okay,
Okay,
yeah, and then we'll be covering PySpark with help of scenarios and all those things. So we'll get to know basically the PySpark, which is used for data engineering, and Python, which is required to learn the PySpark.
okay. So, what is the percentage of Azure Databricks that you will cover in this course?
Yeah, so just like Azure Data Factory, Azure Databricks is also a transformation come ETL tool, but forget about the ETL that I said because only 10% people or 10% of Databricks is used for ETL. Okay, so Databricks will be covering similar to Data Factory. We'll be having the overview of Databricks. We'll be creating or working with community edition of Databricks. Then we'll be creating notebooks into Databricks. We'll be reading data from storage. We'll try to write data into storage. Then yeah, all those things that are transformations or all the things that are required into Databricks that we'll be covering in Databricks.
Thanks.
Yeah,
Sorry, Arjun, you were saying something about 10 percentage, like the Databricks. Can you please repeat that point?
yeah. So see, if you are familiar with SQL, right? SQL basically, or I don't know whether you are or you are not. So SQL is a scripting language. On when we say SQL database, on-premises SQL or Azure SQL database or Synapse Analytics, we use SQL, which is scripting language, where we perform operations on the data which is already stored into SQL on tables. Okay, Databricks is completely different. Okay, which is Databricks is similar to SQL. Like when I say SQL, not as SQL, like on-premises SQL, Microsoft SQL database. Okay, Databricks is similar to that, but in addition to that, Databricks can connect to external sources also. Okay, so suppose if I want to read a file from a blob storage, I can use Databricks. I can get the data into Databricks. I can transform. Suppose I want to read a data from another Azure SQL database into Databricks. I can do it directly without using Data Factory. So that's the part where Databricks also can perform some sort of ETL. That is kind of 10%. That's what I said. And the rest of the 90% is transformation, where we can use multiple languages like SQL, PySpark, R, or Scala for all these transformations. I hope I answered your question.
Thank you. Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Uh, so someone is asking, are we going to build data pipelines and automating it in this course? Yes. So in Data Factory, we'll be building a data pipeline. Okay. So data factory covers like 100 plus connectors. Okay, and we don't have a time or that much time to cover all the 100 plus connector. Okay, which is very tough within 40 days to cover 100 plus connector. What we'll be covering is we'll be covering some common connectors. Okay, which are generally I have gone through, and which are generally used across most of the projects and companies. Okay, that we'll be covering. Now, once we cover that, you can use any of the connector in Data Factory. That I can guarantee you. The only thing is when we say connector, right? Consider it as your adapter or a pin which you just put into plug board, right? It can be 2 pin, it can be 3 pin, it can be combined with 2 plus 3 pin, right? But once you know how to connect with the switchboard, you can use any kind of pin. Consider it as the same connector with Data Factory. Once you get a hang, like gist of what is connector, what we need to have the connector setup, you can use any connector when you have those details. So we'll be covering those connectors. We'll be building the data pipelines. We'll be covering the activities in that, and then we'll be of course automating also. Automating in Data Factory is very straightforward because it's a dedicated ETL tool. We just need to give the time and schedule it. That's all. Okay.
Do you also cover Kafka as part of this course?
Uh, no, I'm sorry. Kafka is a completely different thing. We won't be covering Kafka. Kafka comes under basically streaming and those services.
So do we build any pipelines for streaming data?
Uh, we, I mean, we can build the pipeline for streaming data if there's a requirement, but we will be doing that using a data factory.
Okay.
Sorry, did I say data factory? Yeah, we can do it using data factory as well as Databricks.
Can you also talk something about the projects that will be doing as part of this course?
Yes. See, so during throughout the course, like whenever the scenario comes, I'll be explaining you, like I'll be telling you that this is where this part is important to project, or this is how we use this in the project, like that thing. I'll be keep on giving you example based on the scenario comes or when it comes to my mind while we go through the course. And then once we complete our course, right, when we are at the end of our course, we covered all the components. Okay, then I'll be walking you through end to end of through one project. Okay, like this is the business requirement. That's why we build this part. That's why we build this part, and that's how we build this part. And afterwards, I'll be sharing you 2 to 3 projects so that you can work it on up from your end individually, and you can come up with the solutions for that. And if you need, I can like review it for you. And if you don't, it's up to you.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. See, if you think just to again extend that answer, see, in simple terms, data engineering is straightforward, pairing three different components: source, target, in middle part, a connector, which is okay. These three things are there. Now, when you go across multiple projects or companies, what is going to vary? Okay, either the source are going to vary, a destination is going to vary, or connector is going to vary. Correct. But once you get the idea of this whole picture with any one system, for example, with we are talking about Azure, so you get the idea of with respect to data factor as a connector, Synapse as a destination, and on-prem as a source. Correct. You can put this thing into any of the other project where different things are used. For example, in next project, you might be working on Matillion as a uh, ETL tool or data storage as a ETL tool. So what is the difference between these two? Just the name of connector or the way they connect with source and destination, the transformation operations, like the operations, actual operations, but the source and destination, like the results that was starting point and ending point will always be same. And For you, once you understand that logic or understand that thing that okay, this is my source, this is my destination, I'm trying to achieve that, you will automatically put 1 plus 1 2 as a together things with any of the tool you get your hands on. It just you need just some time to get the hands on that tool. Okay, it's not like that. For example, me, I didn't started with data factory, and when I started with data factory was not even, hello, yeah. So I was saying it's not like that. Right now I'm like explaining data factory or we are walking through course of data factory. It doesn't mean that I started working directly on data factory when it came, right? When it came and when I started, it was not even available for general public. It was just in preview. So there was no documentation and everything, right? Even though with all of documentation and videos, we have to give it one try for each of the scenarios, right? And then we get the idea of that thing, correct? So the whole idea for me to explaining this, don't consider that okay, we just will if we go only to 2 or 3 projects, how will I'm able to answer into interviews. It's not like that. Once you get an idea of one project, you can put the same scenario into multiple projects. You just what changes in project is the action that you do, right? Is the business that you are working on. That is what changing. I'm sure if you have worked into IT or any other domain, you must have been like saw that once you have the idea of a technology, you just keep on changing the input and output of those things, and you just keep on working on the same thing variantly. Yep. So, yeah. Any other questions? Okay. Yeah. So I think we still have 5 minutes as we started late. So I'll just cover one more part, which will be going to cover into throughout the session. One is we covered the storage that I explained you. Then we talked about data factory a little bit that we will be going to cover, and third one is Databricks. Okay, that will be covering through this course. Okay, now always remember whatever anyone says or whatever previous assumptions you have, Databricks is not a language. Okay, Databricks is a company. Okay, you can parallelly search if you want onto Google or anywhere. Databricks is a company. Okay, and Databricks as a company developed a tool which again they call it as a Databricks. Okay, what that tool does is it supports the you know transformations. Okay, then various connections and various languages within one single UI. Okay, when I say transformations, I believe you understand now what is transformation is like. For example, grouping, cleaning, aggregating, etc. Transformations. Connecting, it connects to various sources, though they are limited, but it connects to various sources, right? And it supports various languages. So for example, when I'm writing in Notepad or when I'm writing in SQL, I can just write SQL, or in Notepad, I can just write text. I cannot put image in this, correct? But in Databricks, when I'm writing in one single notebook, I can use SQL, like structured query language, or I can use PySpark also, or I can use Scala also. Okay, so it supports that language also. Okay, and that is why uh, many people tend to use it. Many projects use Databricks. Okay, yeah, I think we covered all the points. That's like important points in session. Do you have any other questions?
Just one question, like, can we build end-to-end pipeline without using Databricks?
So end-to-end pipeline for, I mean, what purpose? If you can
Uh,
tell me, I can tell you.
like source to um, I mean, doing the transformation and loading purpose, like
Yes.
you the ETL
Mhm,
thing, right? So can we
mhm.
do it without using Databricks or just by using SQL as a language? Can we do it?
Yeah, we can do that. So, I mean, see. When you say using SQL as a language, I believe what I'll explain my understanding. So for example, my source is Excel. Okay, I'm using data factor as a ETL tool. And as you mentioned SQL, we are storing that data into, let's say, Azure SQL database, which uses SQL, correct? So correct me if I'm wrong. Your question is, suppose my sources are Excel or SFTP or on-premises SQL or Oracle. Can we build an end-to-end pipeline just using Data Factory to put data into Azure SQL database without using Databricks? Is my understanding correct?
Yes, yes.
Yes, correct. We can do that. Databricks, okay, Databricks something, how do I explain it? Uh, it is kind of a replacement or add-on to Synapse, okay, plus Data Factory. Okay, even though we use Databricks, let's say 100 projects are using Databricks for their transformation, okay, out of those 100, 99 projects use a Data Factory as well, but then they tend to use or not to use this part. Either they use or remove it like that. But Databricks also support SQL, so if you know SQL you can work with Databricks.
Okay.
Okay.
Hey Arjun, one last question. So, what is your
Yeah.
overall experience in Azure data engineering?
Oh, sorry, I didn't tell you that. Sorry. I should have started with that. Okay. I have total 12 plus years of experience, and out of that I spent almost 8 plus years into data engineering. Before that also I was used to work in data engineering, but at the time it was not called as data engineering. It was called as ETL developers, or yeah, kind of that role. Yes. So I'm working onto the Azure tech stack since it came. Like in 2015, the Azure tech stack came, and since then I'm working on that. Okay.
Thanks.
Yeah. So there is one question that whether AWS or Azure or GCP, which is good in data engineer wise. Okay. It's like asking to choose between multiple Android phones or whether iOS or Android is better. I'm just giving an analogy. Okay. See, what Azure offers is what AWS also offers, and what Azure and AWS offers, the same thing GCP also offers. Okay, so if you learn one thing, for example, if you learn Azure, you will not take more than 2 months to learn this respective AWS service or respective GCP service. Okay, that is there. Now, if I want to explain you market wise, when I say market, as in the number of jobs or the number of companies adapting AWS, Azure, and GCP, then the number of companies adapting Azure is more compared to AWS, and AWS is more compared to GCP. Okay, and there is no any uh, what do you say, magical reason behind it. No, it's very simple and straightforward and methodical. See, Azure is service of Microsoft. Okay, and if you look back, before the cloud came, there was Microsoft there, right? As an on-premises SQL, as an Office 365, right? As an Outlook. Everything from Microsoft was SharePoint was there and still now is. So suppose a company is already using on-premises services from Microsoft, right? And they want to move it to cloud. They'll prefer to go to Azure rather than going to AWS and GCP, right? And that's why if you see the occupancy of Azure into the projects or companies, the Azure is more because of this reason. And those companies were like starting from scratch on directly onto cloud, or they prefer, or they are tired of a Microsoft service or whatever it is reason, they go with AWS or GCP. It's like that.
Also,
Okay.
what is the a major reason, for shifting from on-premise to cloud technologies?
Yeah. So okay, I can't explain it in within 2 minutes, but yeah, okay, I'll try. Uh, okay, let if you can answer my question, where do you prefer to save your contacts or files, on your SIM card? Like, sorry, let's get on your Um, Mobile phone or on your OneDrive.
Yeah, it depends. Mostly in my phone, but
Yeah, right. And then you connect that to some of the syncing mechanism with Google Drive or iOS
Mhm.
Drive, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes. Why do you do that?
I don't have storage in my phone.
Okay, then you
That's-
can use SD card or you can put it into some laptop, connect and put it into some laptop also, right?
But SD card has a limit.
Yeah, correct. See, your phone has a limit, your SD card has a limit. Does cloud has a limit? If you are keep paying, they'll keep you providing storage, correct?
Hmm. Okay.
Yes, that is one thing. Unlimited storage. You pay, you get. Second thing, easily available. For example, you store something into your OneDrive or Google Drive, right? And let's say now you don't have your phone, you are at some place else. But if you get a hands on a computer and internet, you just log into your Gmail or iOS, right? And you can see whatever you put into Drive, correct?
Hmm.
Yes.
Okay.
So easily accessible across anywhere where there is an internet is, right? You don't have to have dependency on your local system. That is second reason. Okay.
Uh,
And third thing, yeah,
mhm.
go ahead.
Yeah, you go ahead. Yeah, no.
Yeah, and the third one is the fault tolerance or failure tolerance, whatever you consider it. We call it a fault tolerance. Just in case your phone or your laptop is not working, right? Suddenly something crashed. If you are storing everything in your laptop or phone, your data is also lost, right? But if you are sync that to your OneDrive or any cloud drive, correct? What happens is you just replace the laptop or phone. It is readily available, correct?
Yeah.
So these are some like primary reason, and there is one more which is kind of with respect to infrastructure. So we can probably talk afterwards on that.
So one question is like we can just avail the storage in the cloud, but for example, the ETL technology, for example,
Mhm.
can be on premise, right?
Yeah, it can be. So that's it's this term come hybrid cloud. So part
Oh,
of your infrastructure, whatever it is on cloud, and part is into your network.
mm, okay,
But
okay.
generally, it is in reverse. Okay. The the question you asked is generally the storage onto cloud and ETL onto on-premises, right? But
Mm-hmm.
when company adapts the hybrid cloud, they adapt in reverse way. That ETL on cloud, storage onto on-premises.
Okay, because of some security reason.
Exactly. Data should not go outside the network, right?
But it will be still secure, right?
Into cloud.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, cloud is secure. Obviously, cloud is secure, but it's in cloud, right? I mean, technically speaking, if you keep something at my place, right? Even
Mhm.
though it's your brother, sister, or anyone, right? It's
Mhm.
100% trustworthy. But can you guarantee that they will not look into what you have kept,
Okay,
right?
okay.
So when
Mm-hmm.
it comes to your, let's say, banking thing, banking data, username, password, those things, if I put them into cloud, can the your bank will guarantee that okay, Microsoft will not look into that data or Microsoft didn't see that data,
Okay. Yeah,
right?
that. Mhm.
Right. That's why.
Okay. Okay.
Until and unless it is stored into your system, like local system, you cannot say that it is 100% secure. Even you say that WhatsApp chats are 100% end-to-end encrypted, right? Are they being stored into your computer or your mobile? If so, then only they are secure. Once they go outside, right, in very various investigation cases, if you have seen or read, WhatsApp can provide the data to the investigative agencies if needed, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
that's how it is. So when it comes to security, and we talk compare on-premises and cloud, obviously on-premises is much more secure than cloud. But then it depends, like whether you are handling a sensitive data.
Mm. So it depends on basically the business.
Correct.
With it. Okay. Okay. So, for example, some of the project maybe you have handled, even the storage was in cloud, right?
Yes, yes. Like if you see across whatever business sector, if you know, for example, banking, healthcare, pharma, retail, right? If you just let's talk about three: pharma, retail, and banking. Okay, out of these three, which one do you think is the most secure? Should be
Uh, Finance, like, yeah,
like
banking.
finance, correct? Banking, correct? Even in banking, also 50% of data is in the cloud. Only
Oh,
50% is on premises right now also,
okay.
right? So rest of the sectors are mostly onto cloud. If they decide to move on to cloud, they'll decide to completely move on to cloud. They'll not opt for hybrid. Okay. And most of the startups, okay, the new companies and startups, they'll opt for cloud, even though they have sensitive data or no, right? They don't care. You just
Mm,
accept the terms and condition, which you don't read, so they can put your data anywhere.
like, what do you mean by these terms and conditions? Like not
So for
exposing this customer data to public.
yeah, so for example, whenever you download an application or you visit a site, right, you are logging into some site. Right now, if you think like in past 1 year, the right like everywhere have this checkbox, accept terms and condition, and then only you can proceed, right?
Mm,
How often a person go and read the terms and condition?
mhm. Yeah,
There are
yeah.
so many inside that. There can be a single line that we once you go into that, we will be owning the complete data that you will be inputting or you will be providing to us, including your cache and everything, right? And
Mm,
once you accept that, they can do whatever they want to do with your data.
mm, okay.
They can put into cloud, they can put into on-premises, whatever they need to do, right?
Mm, yeah. Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Okay, then if you don't have any other questions, I think we are good with the first session. Okay. You can talk to organizer based on whatever details you need about the timings. I believe then syllabus. Some of the people have that question, so you can get those clarified, and we'll meet in next session then.